Good afternoon. Welcome to the Day 2 afternoon Biotech reverse pitch. We're delighted to see such a big crowd of people here who are interested in hearing from investors. Who would have thought? My name is Jim Boyle. I'm a part of the team at Yale Ventures, and we're really excited to have a fabulous group of investors to come up and to tell you more about themselves, their backgrounds, their funds, and what their funds are interested in. Our group at Yale Ventures has been working with faculty and postdocs and grad students who are trying to develop therapeutic agents since roughly the mid-90s, since 95, 96. But I have to say, and I've been around Yale off and on since the late 1980s. You can never tell that, but I have been. I am absolutely floored by the fact that so many people in this community have made such tremendous progress with their research in coming up with translatable technologies that might be important for human disease. I think at last count, I'm going to look at Morag here. At last count, the number of faculty that we've received applications from for support, either from her fund, the Blavatnik Fund, sort of like the flagship fund, the Colton Center, or the Roberts Fund, is, what are you saying?
650 for Blavatnik alone.
650 what?
Applications.
650 applications, not this year.
No.
Yes.
We're 125.
Yeah, so we're over 160 or 70 proposals from faculty and their labs every year to the three funds. So you guys have really poured the gasoline on the fire. We are really, really excited about everything that you're doing. But to help shape your thinking a little bit more, I think it's super important that we have our friends here from the investment world to talk more about what their firms are trying to do and what they go looking for. So without further ado, I'm going to ask each of our guests to come up in turn and to run through their decks. And I would like to start with Tingting Zhang-kharas, who's going to come up first and tell us about her fund.
Well, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for the kind introduction. What a prestige to be here with all of you. So I'm Tingting Zhang-kharas, site head for JLabs in the U.S. Northeast from the Johnson & Johnson Innovation Team. And today I'm here to share with you how we have been pioneering the next wave of healthcare innovation, especially with early-stage innovators. So as we are strong believers of innovation can come from anywhere in the world, JLabs is an organization that's not a traditional venture investor, but a part of the Johnson & Johnson Innovation Team to provide global support and a strong network to attract startup companies and entrepreneurs to be incubated in our JLab space. So we provide infrastructure support, connections with investors, J&J BD partners, along with the system that will allow you to get the access to the Resource Hub sponsorship as well. So we have been very much focused on cultivating and fostering innovations from everywhere around the globe to allow early stage companies to take their ideas into the impact for human health care improvement. And as Johnson & Johnson is one of the largest healthcare companies in the world with a history of over 138 years, we are aiming to build upon this successful foundation and strong foundation to bring more innovators into the ecosystem, and also, most importantly, to source innovations from all over the world for J&J's pipeline development. As you can see on this map, over the past 13 years, since the first launch of the initial JLab site in the US in 2012, we have now expanded over the globe with 12 sites around the world, including the latest addition in Asia Pacific, Singapore, and South Korea, along with the original North America sites and European sites. Over the past 13 years, we have already incubated 1,200, actually this is not the most up-to-date number, 1,200 portfolio companies throughout these 12 sites. Some of them are current residents, some of them are alum companies, but we continue to support them no matter which stage these companies are at nowadays. And overall, all these companies have raised a total of $140 billion plus in secured contingent funding, and with a healthy balance between the serial entrepreneurs and first-time entrepreneurs around the life science ecosystem. And of the 1,200 companies within our portfolio, there have been 500 and plus deals and partnerships with J&J formed. As we are the sourcing mechanism for Johnson & Johnson innovation, we are constantly on the look for transformative innovations that we can potentially integrate into the J&J pipeline. Throughout the years, we've also built a very strong investor network. In addition to our own strategic investment arm, JJDC, we have built a network of 140 plus investors. And most recently, we just hosted one of the events, our annual events for JLab's Investor and Partnering Day at New York City, where we gathered 50 startup companies, handpicked from over 500 applications, to meet with almost 40 investors, including JJDC representatives and other external investors, to explore mutual interest and also identify BD opportunities. There are also mechanisms, including quick-fire challenges, that will allow 1 year free lab and office space to companies that have strategic alignment to satisfy J&J's therapeutic areas needs, along with a size between $100,000 to $500,000 grant funding in support of our development. So you can see that we have a vast majority of companies within either can be aligned with our J&J Innovative Medicine sector or J&J MedTech sector. Within the J&J Innovative Medicine sector, which used to be called the Janssen Pharmaceuticals, notably oncology, immunology, and neuroscience are the largest three or highest priority therapeutic areas within our JJIN sector, so that we are looking for assets or companies working in the space, along with very transformative technology platforms that can provide enabling platform technologies for discovery, product development, and supply for any of the therapeutic areas that are on this slide. And in addition, we also have the medtech interest because we have our interventional cardiovascular department, we have our surgical and orthopedic medical development, along with the vision improvement and correction technologies that are in the forefront for J&J MedTech. So as you are wondering, what would be the JLab's differentiation factor compared to the other incubators and accelerators in the space? So we have a no strings attached business model that will allow your innovation to be developed and fostered with the resources from J&J experts, but also have the freedom to interact and explore with other industry partners. So you're not bound to have a deal only with J&J, but with all the other industry partners as well. We have a navigator, which is a website and a portal that allows the public information of all of our portfolio companies to be publicly displayed and to be interactive so that the investors or industry partners can easily identify or find your company within the JLabs network. And we also have a very unique JPAL mentorship program that will allow the J&J internal experts to connect with the companies with the similar interest area and synergize to help them with their pipeline development and acceleration. And Investor Hub, which I've already mentioned, have gathered over 140 plus investors within the community, and we host events around the year to allow ample networking opportunities between the entrepreneurs and investors. And last but not the least, the Resource Hub will provide discounted CDMO and CRO services that have been handpicked and selected by J&J Procurement so that you can contract with them for their best-in-class services. So how do we select our companies when the applications come in? So we definitely have a very straightforward, easy process. You can submit your non-confidential information online through the JLabs application portal, and that will trigger the internal review process with our internal experts from the relevant therapeutic areas. And within normally 2 to 3 weeks, you will hear back from us with a notification of either acceptance or decline, and sometimes with a delayed acceptance if you can meet certain criteria or provide additional data. And obviously, the 4 key elements for us to evaluate your technology will be based upon the alignment with J&J's strategy, whether there's a strong founder team and also management group to develop transformative technologies and assets for solving unmet medical needs. So lastly but not least, hopefully I'm still within time, you can find out more details around all of these offerings that I just mentioned in earlier slides through the contact information on the right-hand side. And specifically mentioning the quickfire challenges, that has ongoing challenge nomination process ongoing for oncology and immunology. So if you're interested in working in the space, please feel free to check it out. So with that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad Tingting mentioned the fact that, and for those of you who aren't familiar, for some of the early stage funds who actually will do the legwork and help to find other investors who might be interested in some of these technologies too, that's a real value add service, and I think that's something that we should all be aware of. By the way, I just want to make sure that I'm sure all of you have questions that you'll want to ask Tingting and the other presenters. I will ask if the group could stick around towards the end of the session so they could stand up here and perhaps take questions from you as well, if that's okay. Thanks very much. Next up, we'd like to ask John to come up from UPMC Enterprises and tell us about his background and what his firm's interested in.
Great time. I'll just use the desk mic. Thank you. Hey, everyone. It's an honor to be here at Yale. Thanks to all of the organizers. This is an incredible event and our first time, but certainly not the last. So I'm John Lowman. I'm here to represent UPMC Enterprises. We are the corporate venture arm of the UPMC health system. I'll kind of go into the different layers of our organization and explain a bit about what our work is and the different ways that we invest into the next generation of life sciences research. So to start at the highest level, if you're not familiar with UPMC, you probably haven't flown into Pittsburgh. We are actually one of the largest integrated healthcare payer and provider systems in the U.S., generating annual revenues of close to $30 billion. We're one of the largest employers in Pennsylvania. We have a hospital network that covers more than 40 individual sites, mostly in Pennsylvania, in expanding states in West Virginia, Maryland, and internationally as well, in Italy, Ireland, and additional geographies. We also have a payer arm that covers 4.5 million lives, and that gives us kind of together with those two structures, the core of the infrastructure of UPMC. In 2015, the leadership of UPMC decided that they wanted to create a division that would really invest into the innovation that's going to underlie the next generation of healthcare. And so they set up a team called Enterprises, which is comprised of two components. That when it first spun out, it was largely focused on digital health, so technologies that would streamline care and accelerate workflows within the hospitals. And then in 2018, our team was born. It's called Translational Sciences. Our remit is to kind of focus on the technologies that will actually interact with a patient, whether that's a therapy, medical device, or a diagnostic. And so we do that in three kind of core areas. So we'll go really as early as we think as venture tends to go. So we'll invest at the academic stage in breakthrough discoveries that have been made in leading academic labs to help translationally develop those discoveries into technologies and ultimately therapies that can make it to the clinic. For the strongest and kind of most viable of those concepts, we'll also invest to form the independent companies around those technologies that can kind of run outside of the UPMC umbrella and execute on a clinical development strategy, raise their own funding, and ultimately bring these drugs to patients. And then we do behave as a traditional venture arm as well. We're kind of a different type of strategic where we can come into a syndicated investment round. And what we aim to deliver is insights from both of those kind of core infrastructure components from UPMC. We can bring physician KOLs to the table that can advise on clinical strategy or think through initial trial design or even think about trial sites within our system. And then we can also recruit folks from our payer arm who can give kind of firsthand insights onto how new technologies might be reimbursed and the difference that those can make from a healthcare economic standpoint and some of the equations you have to run when designing those pivotal trials that aren't just going to be meaningful for regulators, but would ultimately be meaningful for market adoption. So just to put some numbers behind what we do. So we invest out of a $1 billion commitment from the UPMC organization. It has more of an evergreen flavor, so we don't have really strict timelines and don't put a lot of pressure on the companies that we're working with to make those kind of return timelines that other VCs might be more pressured to. That has led us to putting money into 18 different companies. 4 of those have gone through that venture creation model where we spin something up around a technology, largely that's spun out of the University of Pittsburgh so far, but we're interested in additional universities that we can partner with to aid in new co-formation, and then the other 14 being more of those traditional VC-style investments. That's as those technologies have matured, we've had the pleasure of watching 15 drugs go into the clinic. We have a pretty nimble team. We all kind of wear a lot of hats. I end up focusing most of my time personally on the academic stage investments, but we all get a chance to look at kind of each of the different flavors of investment that we make. We have good connections with other life sciences VC funds, so we can get external opinions on what we're investing in and also hear about exciting trends and new technologies that are emerging from outside of the Pittsburgh ecosystem. We put a good amount of money to work both within that sponsored research trajectory as well as in investing in our companies. We also always keep a good amount set aside so that we can continue to participate and support the companies until they're ultimately able to find an exit. And so just to cover our key investment areas and where we place priority but not necessarily exclusivity. So I have a portfolio that's largely weighted towards therapeutics. I think that will always be kind of our breakdown, but we are expanding our medical devices and diagnostics practices as well. On the therapeutic side, again, probably an 80-20 towards first in class, but we have worked on some investments that have more of a best in class product profile, always focusing on a high burden unmet need where we can get physicians from our own system to validate that there is really a gap there for patient care. On the medical device side, we also really like it if our clinical KOLs can get their hands on the prototype or on the product and really are vocally supportive that this would be something that they would immediately reach for. And then on the diagnostic side, we have a really big emphasis on advancing precision medicine beyond oncology. So advancing new diagnostics that are able to match the patients, not just within the UPMC system, but across the world with the most likely drugs for them to gain a response from. Our prioritized therapeutic areas are pretty much the common ones across VC, but we aren't exclusive just to these areas, which is just where we've placed multiple bets. We are looking to find more companies in the progressive fibrosis space. We see that as an area where the puck might be going, and so we want to hear about really exciting opportunities there, but of course across all of these areas. Just from a metrics and kind of classic questions about our fund. So traditionally when we're engaging a sponsored research perspective, we'll come in with a really milestone-based plan and attach the resources that would be necessary to kind of achieve and expedite that milestone-driven plan. So whether that takes maybe $500,000 to really get through validation experiments around a target or to create that initial drug product that you could be using for in vivo efficacy validation, all the way towards kind of larger research partnerships and collaborations that really get towards drug candidate development. On the syndicated VC side, our average check size is around $5 million. We traditionally come in more at like the Series B stage to balance that new co-formation arm that we do, but as the ecosystem evolves, we're always eager to hear about the most exciting ideas, and so we're not beholden to just those two ends of the barbell. And then I mentioned this right at the start of the talk, we do have a pretty large digital health practice as well. So for any folks that aren't biotech, we do have a large team of counterparts that we are happy to introduce you to as well. So that's us in a nutshell. I don't know if there's time for questions, but just, happy to be here. And thanks so much to the Blavatnik crew, the Yale Ventures. We're just getting started to understand this ecosystem and are really looking forward to kind of furthering the relationship from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Next up, we'd like to invite Huiyuan Zhang from SV Health Investors to tell us about herself and her fund.
Thanks for the kind introduction. I'm really excited to be here participating at the Yale Innovation Summit and tell you about who we are, what we invest in, and how we work with entrepreneurs and scientists like you to build companies that transform healthcare. So SV Health, I'm a senior associate with SV Health, and SV Health is a global healthcare investment firm that has been around for about 30 years. Thanks. We have cumulatively we have about $4 billion under management. We have had 75 exits through IPOs and M&As across our portfolio, and we have global presence in both UK and US that allow us to leverage the innovation that's happening globally. We have been steadfast supporters of innovator throughout the several cycles of bull and bear markets. So at SV, what we are most proud about is really the number of drugs that we've been able to support throughout FDA approval and really get access to the patient. To date, we have supported 27 drugs across various disease areas through the companies that we've backed, including in neurology, oncology, immunology, respiratory disease, and others. So on the therapeutic side, at the moment, we are investing from 3 different fund strategies. We have a disease-agnostic impact medicine fund that is more focused on seed to Series A investments. We have a biotech crossover opportunity fund that is also disease-agnostic, but focused more on near clinical to late clinical stage opportunities. And as a testimony of SV Health's focus on real unmet medical need, we have developed a unique fund strategy that is focused on age-related neurodegenerative disease in recognition that the rising of the aging society is really creating a social crisis of dementia. And the market for management of neurological neurodegenerative disorders is getting to $3 trillion, which is equal to the whole size of the pharmaceutical industry. We just announced a couple of weeks ago the close of our second fund under the Dementia Discovery Fund strategy. That is a new fund of $269 million. So SV has been a science-first fund manager, and the number one criteria for us to screen new investment opportunities is really whether we see a real drug that can be developed that serve real unmet medical need. And as an investor, we like to take a hands-on approach. We are very active managers of our investments. We like to lead rounds. We like to syndicate early. We want to set up the companies on the successful track and be able to support our companies in the long term through Series A, B, and so on. And we are uniquely positioned to support our companies through late-stage clinical development and IPO because we have this crossover fund strategy. Our typical fund size is usually $20 to $25 million from a individual fund, and just because we have this additional follow-on opportunity from the crossover fund, we can increase that to a total of about $45 million. And besides the therapeutics, we also have a separate team that manage investments in the healthcare growth and medtech field. So through that fund, we are mainly looking at commercial stage opportunities, companies that are generating revenue of at least $5 million a year. So I will not be spending too much time on that fund strategy today. With that fund, we can look at healthcare services, IT, medical device, tools, pharma services. We do not usually look at diagnostics just because of the expertise we have on the team. And on that fund, we usually do $10 to $30 million for each investment. So company creation has been a really core strategy since the inception of SV. Historically, about 50% of our portfolio are actually new codes SV has created. Here, just to take iBio as an example, this is a company we created in 2021. The company started at pre-DC stage, and within 3 years, we have delivered phase 1 efficacy data in ophthalmology and sold to Merck last year for $3 billion. So our strategy in company creation really leverage our rich network of venture partners who are all drug development veterans who have decades of experience, who have done the entrepreneurship multiple times and been successful. And we also leverage our strong relationship with pharma companies. We take board seats and play active roles in developing the R&D strategy, hiring team, licensing IP from the academia or pharmaceutical companies, and we also play active role in enhancing the return by driving exits. So here are some numbers that shows our close relationship with major pharmaceutical companies. There are 10 of the top 20 pharma companies that are actually active investors in our funds. We do have regular catch up with our LPs, for some at like quarterly frequency. So we do align with our pharma partners in terms of the companies we build, in terms of the development path, and also we are actively involved in helping the companies establishing pharma partnerships from early on. So 80% of the 20 largest pharma have invested in or partners acquired SV companies. And 50% of the 20 largest pharma companies have transacted at least twice with SV companies. So this is our team and the powerhouse behind everything we're able to achieve. Kate Bingham and Mike Ross are two really very experienced venture capitalists who have been very successful in biotech venture capital investment for 30 years. And we have several generations of younger people who are really entrepreneurial and are eager to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And here are the network of venture partners we've been working with who would usually act as executives, CEO, or temporary CSOs for the new codes we build. And eventually they will try to set up the company on a good track and get a full-time executive management team in place, and they will come back and work with us to work on new opportunities. Okay, that's great. That's the end of my talk, and we're always eager to look for and work with new entrepreneurs with broad ideas. So please feel free to reach out whenever. It's never too early to chat. We'd love to be a thought partner in your entrepreneurial trip. Thank you.
Thank you, Huiyuan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Huiyuan. Next up, we'd like to ask Annie Mitsak to come up from Cure Ventures and tell us about herself and her firm.
All right. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Annie Mitsak. I'm a partner at Cure Ventures. We're based in Boston. We're a relatively new fund, having just raised our first fund about 2 years ago. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we're looking for, give some examples of portcos, and how best to engage with us. So we are primarily company builders, doing seed investments, really forming the new cos, rolling our sleeves up. And the three main pillars are displayed here. So the first one is really to be very capitally efficient and think about the dollars really needed to de-risk the science. So our seeds are typically a couple $100,000 up to 5 million plus or minus. And we typically heavily tranche those because we really want to focus on what are those key de-risking events to create value and move the needle before that larger financing. So that's one of our core components. The second one is that we often serve as C-suite in our companies for that seed period. So particularly for academic spinouts where the founders want to stay in their academic posts, we will serve as CEO, CSO through that seed period. And that helps us to remain capitally efficient. It also helps us to shape the strategy, or helps us to stay involved by shaping the strategy and really watch that capital spend quite closely. But we really view it as a partnership with the PIs or the other founders and entrepreneurs who we're working with. And then the third component, which is really critical, is this emphasis on human genetics. So we have a belief internally, which is also supported by data, that targets with human genetic evidence are more likely to succeed in the clinic. And so we actually have built some internal capabilities around this concept, we put forth resources. We have a couple people on the team who are dedicated to building an internal genetics platform. And we use this in diligence. Our portcos use it as well. And we really hope that this will help us to drive consistent returns from fund to fund. So I put this slide next because this is really the core of who we are and what we do, and it's all about our people. So the team here consists of both investors. I have more of an investor background, but we also have operators. So most of the team come from pharma, from biotech, have actually put drugs into the clinic through to NDAs and such. So these are the people who come in, not just due diligence on the opportunity, but actually can work in those companies during that seed period, like I mentioned previously. So it's an incredible team to work with, super collaborative, and just great expertise across disease areas and across a wide range of modalities as well. And this is kind of building on the previous slide. So this highlights the drugs that the team that I just showed you has been involved with over the course of their careers. So it's a nice snapshot of the breadth of expertise, both across therapeutic areas. So oncology, neuro, I&I, cardiometabolic, but also modalities, so small molecules, cell therapies, biologics, and everything in between. And I think this really also mirrors our investment strategy, where we are quite agnostic to the modality and to the therapeutic area, as long as it's something that is groundbreaking and moving the needle from a patient therapy perspective, then we'll be interested in it. So this just gives a snapshot of some representative portfolio companies that we have invested in. Again, we're in Fund 1. We're only a few years into our investment cycle. But this, again, kind of shows the breadth. So we will do everything from academic spin-outs where we're heavily involved in operations. We're often replicating that initial data that was done in the lab in a CRO and tranching that capital very carefully through the seed. So examples shown here that are doing that model include Tosca as well as Senos. And then we will also go on sort of the other end of the spectrum where we'll look at clinical stage things that are coming often out of pharma. So Tortugas is an example of that sort of company where it's still a full new co-build, but we are looking at assets that are ready to enter phase 2. So really anything that can be a new co we are interested in, whether it's that early science or that later stage, more clinical focused thing. And I think this slide also is a nice demonstration of the breadth of therapeutic areas. So we've got a number of CNS companies. We have Cobuck, which is an I&I and also a novel modality. We've got Crosslink, which is in oncology. Kenai is cell therapy. So really across the board in terms of the different modalities and therapeutic areas. We have 12 active investments. It's a $350 million fund. And on the next slide, I think I'll get to some more details around the details of investing with us. So, like I said, we're mostly doing seeds from a company creation perspective, often the first institutional capital in. We will also do opportunistic Series A and beyond. Emphasis for sure on genetically validated approaches. This is, of course, only one component we consider, but a very important one. I already mentioned a therapeutic area and modality agnostic. Our initial check size is typically for a seed between $1 million up to, call it $7 million. For a Series A, we'll do a larger check as that initial check size. We don't like to be passive investors in those situations. We prefer to have a meaningful investment and also take a board seat. We do reserve significantly for follow-on investment. So with a $350 million fund, we'll probably have 15 to 20 investments. And that's because even with a small seed, we will absolutely come in big in the A and future financings. I already mentioned we're often the first money in for the seed. We will co-seed, so that's not something we're opposed to. A lot of our seeds do end up being just Cure in the seed, but we're flexible when it comes to that. We typically have a board seat, certainly for the seed, sometimes two. And as I previously mentioned, we will serve and often serve as the interim management to help guide our companies through the seed. So I think that is all. Thanks so much for your attention and happy to answer questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Annie. Next up, we'd like to invite Lazar Bojic from Curie.bio to come up and tell you about himself and his firm.
Everybody, thanks for coming today. Standing room only is always nice. And that's the first time I've heard my last name pronounced properly. So thank you for that, Jim. That's great. I'm from Curie.bio. I run what we call Investor Network. That's basically a term that just means anything that has to do with investors. I run that function. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Curie today. On the slide, what you see is that we are your drug discovery and operating co-pilots as well as your capital partner. The non-jargon, plain English version of that means we have hired a massive team of drug discovery scientists and drug discovery experts to serve as your co-pilots, thought partners, hands-on doers should you need it, so that you can make real drug discovery progress on less capital, so that you can own more of your own thing. And to segue just from that own more of your own thing, I just want to touch a little bit on venture capital math 101 and illustrate the problem statement from a founder's perspective. And so let's just start with biotech isn't hard. It's actually brutal. We've all heard the number bandied about that only 4% of drug discovery programs make it to becoming an approved drug. And that's a real number. That number comes from the product of the probabilities of success at each stage of drug discovery. This was published in the Journal of Health Econometrics by the Tufts Group in 2016. It's been replicated in meta-analyses many times over. And so that's a 4% probability of success, assuming you have started with a target, maybe some tool compounds, maybe a tool antibody. If you swim upstream and say how many ideas make it to an approved drug, that logarithmically gets worse. And so it's not just brutal, it is basically one step shy of impossible. When we talk about de-risking events, creating value, what we mean by that is as you survive one of these stage gates, you remove the risk that you will not survive that stage gate. And so therefore the risk goes down, and by virtue of that, the price of your company or the valuation of your company will go up. And in the earliest stages, when your company is the riskiest because you've nominated a target, maybe you have a tool compound and you only have a 4% chance of success, if you need to raise inordinate amounts of money to make any progress, that is heavily dilutive. And canonically, you've had to raise somewhere around $75 million to get to a major preclinical milestone like a development candidate. And then you've had to go out and raise another $200 million to prove that out in the clinic. So high risk plus high amounts of capital equals massive dilution for founders. And most of that high capital comes from the fact that you need a perpetually inflationary state in people and space, the two major cost drivers of basically any business, but especially in biotech. If you have to go and hire 30 people and build out a 10,000 or 20,000 square foot lab, you're $25 million in before you've done a single experiment. And so we at Curie believe that if you lower the cost of capital to generate compelling preclinical data and then eventually clinical data, more companies can be started, more entrepreneurial founders can come up with bold ideas to test and drive. And we believe that we can solve for that and bring that cost to try way down. We believe that you don't need to go build a massive team. You don't need to go build a massive lab in order to have a successful therapeutics company. What you really need is a couple of people, maybe a dog in a garage and a couple of laptops, just like in tech, that old mythology that you can start a therapeutics company or a tech company in your garage. We're trying to bring that to biotech. And what you really therefore need is a bunch of battle-tested operators in a whole bunch of different disparate skill set areas in order to help you drive your idea. And that access to those critical people doesn't mean that you need them all the time. You need them at those moments in time when you are making hypercritical decisions. You don't need the best medicinal chemist in the world to be hired full time. You need the best medicinal chemist in the world once a week for an hour, or once every 3 weeks for 3 or 4 hours to help you make very critical, very important decisions, because they're battle tested, they're experienced, they have the pattern recognition to see what good looks like, or to know what good looks like, to know what bad looks like, and to help you out. And that's what we've built at Curie. We've smashed together 2 different businesses. One is this drug discovery co-piloting services organization, where we've aggregated, like I said at the top of the presentation, a massive team, 85 plus, I think we're actually over 90 now, of very successful drug hunters and drug makers that you have fractional access to. And we don't charge you for that. We charge you for that in equity. But if you went and hired a medicinal chemist, you'd pay them 7.5% anyway. And for 7.5% here, you get access to 90 of the best drug hunters and drug makers in the world. And we've smashed that together with our investing arm, which is about $7 to $12 million at a time. And notice that that's not 75 million anymore. The goal for that 7 to 12 million is to get to that preclinical proof of concept data. And to eliminate the jargon, what we really mean is somewhere around a development candidate, which means a progressible molecule into the clinic during your next financing. Now, if you haven't built out a massive team and you haven't built out a massive lab, that means that you don't have carrying costs going into your next round of financing. That means that your Series A now suddenly becomes maybe 50, 60, 70 million, because you need your CMO, you need your head of ClinOps, you need formulation, you need toxicology. That's about it. You need to go hire 4 or 5 people. You still don't need a lab. You still don't need an office. And so now all of a sudden you can run super lean to that initial human clinical data, and hopefully that is going to be a definitive clinical study. Less money means you can own more because you're eliminating risk off the table, but you're doing it in bite-sized chunks. And so that means value creation for founders as well. I just want to go through a couple of quick things that we hear a lot at Curie, which is that Curie is great for academic founders. And that's very true. We've invested in 27 companies to date. About half of those are actually academic founders. And while we work with academic founders, we also work with a wide array of different founder archetypes. And what we've actually seen is that there's a huge amount of demand for what we offer, not just from academic founders, but also people that are former biotech operators, people that are part of biotech spin-outs, serial entrepreneurs, and the like. I don't need to read the slide. But the point is that it's not just for academic founders, it's for any founder archetype, and the value that is pulled out of Curie for different founder archetypes is vastly different. We see academic founders all the time, and sometimes they just don't realize how hard drug discovery is. The biotech operators come in and say, oh my gosh, like, you are going to be in my wings so that I can run my vertical of excellence and do my thing. The second thing that we hear a lot is like, well, where do you do the experiments? Like, can I be in New York? Yeah, of course, you can be anywhere. That's the beauty of the model, because you don't need to build a lab. The reason you don't need to build a lab is we have actually aggregated a huge network of contract research organizations globally. We have relationships with well over 500 CROs in the world. We have NDAs in place with well over 200 of them. We have master service agreements in place with well over 100 of them. And the reason that matters is we've taken care of all of that central contracting for you. So we've all heard the nightmares. We've all heard the stories. It takes you 6 months to get a contract with a CRO, and that is true. We've already taken care of that. So now all of a sudden you have on-demand laboratory service from the best CROs in the world across all the major verticals of drug discovery from day one. So you don't have to build a lab, you don't have to build the team. What you really need is a very strong target modulation hypothesis on a target that's going to impact patients. That's what we really care about, is making drugs. And the model's working. We've invested in 27 companies so far, as I've said. The first company that we invested in is called Forward Therapeutics. We helped them get to a development candidate in about 18 months. All they had when they came to us was no primary data. They had a PowerPoint slide with a TPP that they wanted to engineer, and we helped them engineer that TPP to a development candidate. They raised the $50 million Series A, and between we in the room, they're now in the clinic. And so that's 3 years from idea on a PowerPoint slide to the clinic. That's going to bear out over the next 18 months or so. if that clinical data looks very good, the market has told us what it's worth. It's worth well over $1 billion. And the founders here own a very material chunk of that business. The other 26 companies are still running their experimental plans, and we're going to find out how those data look towards the back half of this year, first half of next year. So hopefully when we come back to the Yale Innovation Summit next year, we do get invited to do this again. I can give you an update on the rest of the portfolio. But in the interim, we're always looking for people that have awesome therapeutic ideas with awesome target modulation hypotheses. And if you have those and you're interested in learning more, all inquiries, QR codes work. I never thought that QR codes would be a real thing 10 years ago, but here we are post-COVID. So please reach out, and thank you so much for your attention. Happy to answer questions after the session.
Thank you, Lazar, very much. Last up, we'd like to invite Sarika Temme-Bapat to come up and tell us about herself and her firm, which is Biocapital.
Thanks so much for the intro. My name is Sarika Temme. I'm an analyst, and today I'm representing Biocapital. We are an early stage life science VC, primarily interested in therapeutics. We've also invested in diagnostics and devices. Typically, single-digit million first checks. We're investing out of our fifth fund right now, $275 million, and we seek to invest around $15 million throughout the life cycle of a company. So what I want to touch on first is our secret sauce as a venture capital life sciences firm, which is our premier network of 25 incubator labs distributed across the US and Europe. This network allows us to incubate young biotech companies in a capital efficient manner. We avoid the setup and build out of a traditional lab space as companies are able to lease benches, offices, larger bench networks on a monthly or yearly basis. And they get access to one of the most innovative networks of biotech companies that is operational today. But what this also allows us to do as a venture capital firm is to live alongside our lab companies. And this really means that we're able to establish longitudinal relationships with these companies, see how they generate data and work together over time, and inform their strategic thinking as a venture capital firm, bringing to the table that sort of experience and perspective around what kinds of pivotal data they should be generating, what sorts of experiments they should be running to engage with strategic pharma and other investors before they get to the point where they're in the position where they need to raise. On the screen here is the team that's made this possible. The gentlemen on the top of this screen, Doug, Johannes, Peter, and Steve, are the founders of the lab network, as well as the founders of Biocapital. The rest of the team is distributed across the East and West Coast. We live, as I said, alongside our lab companies. We have offices in our labs in Boston as well as the Bay Area, and we enjoy touching base with our other labs. For example, in New Haven, we opened a biolabs in summer of 2024. And have just been blown away by the level of innovation coming out of this city. So to share a case study here, we have Dren-Bio. This is a company that started out in our San Carlos labs in 2019 with basically the idea of depleting pathogenic cells. And it took us a while to buy into this idea. But we got to know the founder, Nenad Tomasevic, and the excellent work that he and his team have done, and ultimately decided to seed the company back in 2019. Since then, the company is engaged in two really pivotal pharma partnerships with Pfizer and Novartis. This is another thing I haven't touched on yet, but our network of pharma partners really allow us to inform strategic decisions for our portfolio companies, and also through BD activity, advance to proof of concept in a capital efficient manner that doesn't dilute equity. Ultimately, the story ended with the acquisition by Sanofi of Dren's asset DR0201 for an upfront of $600 million and a total deal value of $1.9 billion. As I said, our goal as a firm is really to support the building of early stage biotechs from start to finish. And we've identified the need for something earlier than the seed and Series A investments that we traditionally make as a firm. In order to fill this white space, we've started the Platinum program in 2022. So this is our 4th year running that program. And what this is a $500K pre-seed investment, as well as a package of other supporting activities and services that we really hope catalyzes that next round of crucial experiments for founders. We partner with a number of pharma and CROs, including this year HitGen and Alloy, to offer equity for services as well as this pre-seed investment. This has resulted in a portfolio of currently 16 Platinum Program companies that we're happy to support today. The application window for the Platinum Program closed this year about half a month ago, but we are planning on launching again next year. We encourage you to scan the QR code on the screen if you're interested in learning more. We look forward to reviewing any and all applications on an ongoing basis. So as I said before, we've been really blown away by the level of innovation coming out of the Yale and New Haven ecosystem. 3 of our portfolio companies through the Platinum Program are actually Yale spinouts. Those are Cloverleaf Bio, Row Bio, and D2B3. Those companies are innovating in oncology and ophthalmology through antibodies and novel modalities. And I'd encourage you, if you're curious about learning more about Mission Biocapital, please come talk to me, one of my colleagues, or please talk to one of the amazing founders on the screen. We hope they'll be able to tell you more about what it's like to work with us. Thank you so much for your time today.
Maybe we could just offer one more round of applause for all of today's speakers. Thank you.